Hello, hello.
Hey, my friend. How's it going, bro?
Super good, and you?
Great. I'm ready for this, the English part of the biosocial model of development for baby and family.
Excellent. The first part was a huge success. People really love it. It's still running because it's still fresh in on the platforms, on the social platform. But it's gonna be awesome. There's a lot of people watching that kind of development in the English community. I think more than in the French community. Don't know why. We love to be late a bit, but that's it. So let's teach them.
It's a very international language,
Yeah.
But it was great because now we can practice, we can go in depth, and I think I'm gonna get more exploration, more data, more depth with practice too, since we did it. I have well-known people that I know they will listen to the English version, so I'm quite.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's go. Do your stuff.
So today we're going to talk about the Neuro-Bio-Social of development of the baby and the family, the apply format. So it's not really per se a scientific method. It's not a rational method because every individual, every power dynamic, every family is very different. And it's not for the sake of perfection or tell that I'm an expert in the subject. It's more of an explorative subject and methodology regarding how I can learn, how I can be inspired, and what's important for me in terms of my own maternal and paternal instinct, because there's no right, there's no wrong. It's more about how you embody it, how you're gonna get data information and apply it in your own life. So I'm just saying that it's not science, it's more of a curiosity, and then we're here to exchange. So the
Perfect.
first half I will say for the family is to have a family flag of virtue. You know, what are the virtues you are very important? Is it love? Is it loyalty? Is it honesty? Is it work? Is it work ethic? Is it be agreeable? And you have to kind of negotiate that with the wife, with the upcoming baby, and there's some kind of planning, okay? Of course, when it comes to conception, you have conception in different strat of situation. Some people plan a baby, some people have hard time getting a baby, some people don't want a baby and they get one. So, but life still go on unless, you know, you do abortion, which I'm technically against unless it was rape, but we're not gonna go explore those kind of ethical probability. We will go to the traditional, we plan to have a baby, we're ready, and we explore everything in terms of anticipatory intelligence that could happen or not in our life, and be prepared in advance. And that's what this lecture or seminar or academia is. It's more of a, I have a baby, or I'm expecting a baby soon, or I'm planning a baby in a year or two, and I'm gathering information to how be maybe a better parent version of myself. And the thing is, once you bound a family, once you have a baby, it's forever. It's a sacred contract. So my dad is still my dad today. You know, I find a father figure, an external person, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, he's still my biological dad, and that will remain and stay forever. So, you know, even though there could be divorce, separation, you know, nuclear family reconstruction, we're in a contemporary setting that's all the conception of gender, girls, guys, everything flipped, the conception of family, or sometimes there's parents that are living together with baby and kids, but they're not actually a couple too. So we live in a very transcending format of what could be traditional, but I'm not saying they're wrong or they're right, but I'm just saying that what matters is it's love. So I will say at the interpersonal dynamic of development, love will be the the top of the hierarchy, because from love compounds lots of benefit, both at the neurochemical level, neurotransmitter, social,
Mm-hmm.
interpersonal, interdependent, demanding, neurobiological stats, etc., etc., etc. So we live in a world now that fertility could be a challenge. There's less quantity in sperm counts than men like 40 years ago, less mobility, less structure. So I think it's important for men to look at their sperm count on, maybe every 5 years or 4 years, or if you plan to have kids eventually or within 1 to 5 years, then it's better to know what kind of fertility status I have, obviously. And there's lots of different of in vivo, in vitro technique. There's a lot of alternative medicine, both experiential science and medicine, that make it happen. And but at the same time, to know your sperm count as a man and as a woman, to know if you're capable of conceiving, it's always a good idea, because it's good. Because the thing is, you need substantial type help, holistic help, to be able to conceive. I know that life's capable of adapting to situation where technically you're not supposed to have kids and you do. So life has this kind of a miracle status of expression, which makes its beauty and its mystery and its heart and science. And it's exactly where we're going to dwell to explore this adventure and this life adventure and this life commitment. Because even if you're 70 years old and your kids is 40, you're still a parent. It's kind of something that I don't want to talk a lot about the COVID, but COVID-19, the breast milk doesn't give the COVID-19. So it's very intriguing that kind of protect you that way. So that's my COVID-19 umbrella.
You mean only for the baby, or the baby won't get affected by the COVID?
You get it by external stressor, obviously, but not by the breast milk. So.
Okay. We know that breastfeeding helps a lot with the immunity, because it's create an overpopulation of.
Going to go pretty soon. So at the cell level, conceptually, symbolically, spiritually, believe it or not, there's a genetics imprint, and because we're made of cells, and cells was there since the genesis and the birth of the actual life. So it will be very nonsensical to my ideology that an embryo doesn't come with input of memory. And with that input of memory, there's 400 traits that most of them comes from grandparents, parent, genetic blueprint, and ancestral transgenerational memory. So what I mean is, even if you have 10 kids, one will be a lawyer, one will be a creative, one will be wild, one will be crazy. So there's kind of an evolutionary algorithm that's out of control, and your kids will get inspired by the environment and where they grow and what kind of fetal embryonic life they had in terms of their external sensibility. Because baby at first semester, they kind of grow in their little conceptual development, but at the same time, at the second semester, they develop conception of sound. The vestibular system is the first and last sense of life, like you're very aware. The feel emotion, from the placenta to emotion. There's this kind of a communication axis at the emotional level, from mother to baby. Do I feel welcome? Do I belong here? Do I have the right to live? Those are our philosophical questions, but I think in the BLP style, it starts very, very, very soon. And that's why the second semester, it's like you have to understand that what's in your belly and the belly of your wife, or the belly of a surrogate mother. We're changing all the there's innate intelligence that comes from very long time, long history, and in the baby itself, within narrative story, if you tell a story in the second semester baby, his hand will follow narrative, his hand will follow synchronization, sense of pleasure of parents making love, sense of music, interpretation, and assimilation. So there's an emotional world. You know, sometimes they put the needles inside the belly, and some baby second semester they attract to it, and some are not. So some are
Yeah, exactly.
and some are extroverts. So where that comes from, there's all the parameters of an ecosystem of the nutritional, the hormonal, the psychological, the somatic, the mindset of the mom too, you know. So it's pretty complex and very intriguing. Is I will not see life, if you could retain a message, so I will not see life from birth. I will see life, you know, from conception. What happened at the conception? And you have, as parents do, you know, if you can plan, where you think what happened, what kind of mindset we were, what was my life, what was your life, what was her goal, what was the ambience? Did we do it at work? Did we do it, we were running, we did it hiding in the forest, we did it home, it was relaxed, there was music, food, and all those things kind of interpret something that's grow inside the lady. And I think it's interesting, if you're curious for it, obviously, to find a narrative of the conception, because that's the embodiment of sacred contract, because it's a contract for life. And it's like, what kind of sacred contract I want to do as a mother and a father in terms of my goal, my ambition as a family, and this kind of intertwined, interdependent, and collective team, collective dynamic as that triangular, or it could be extensive family if you have more kids. And more kids there is, more complexity it is, because there's more interaction and stuff. And I know that our generation, you know, like my mom, they had 10 kids, and me, I only have one, and my mom had 3. So the sense of community, and sadly in the modern settings, kind of get narrow, and it's a reality. And I think that you need a community. If you have a community supporting the pregnancy and the wife and the lady, it's very important, because a community will be the support. And when you have support, you don't have, you know, depression post-birth. So with helps, with community, that's why I think grandparents were very important as an evolutionary tool, because they bring that kind of support. They cannot have babies anymore, but they can manage and help the family. So this kind of a grandparents, baby, parents link are essential needs. If you have it, take advantage of it as much as you can, because that creates kind of a soothing stability. And it's better, if we understand the contemporary situation, for the man to be a provider, for a man to bring money homes and secure, you know, our asset, because we're sadly in a capitalism situation now, where money, bills, nothing's gonna stop, it's keep going. And the grandparents will soothe and support. The father, I know those are very traditional view, but this is what we pick in our family. And that makes us, I guess, a bit traditional in that sense, but at the time we're progressive, because we're progressive parents. So the important is, you see the baby as an innate intelligence that has transgenerational memory. And as parents, you do the sacred contract of what's my role, what's the legacy of our family, and what's I will bring to them, and make them discover, and make them want and desire, and play. And at the same time, they come with their difference, and we have to accept their difference. And the difference, you'll see, man, the parents will notice, even in the first few weeks, they will notice that, oh, you know, he seems to like this, he seems to like that. Inherent, implicit, unconscious preference, which kind of designed toward the authenticity of the person. And I think that as parents, we have to embrace differences. Right. So in the baby as the second semester within the FOXP2 gene, the baby hear the parents, they hear the algorithm of language. The baby knows all the universal language and has the algorithm make its place. He will cry like a French baby with the French tone, etc., or English, whatever English language is prospect. There's an assimilation of language. That's why we have to learn that even though our baby are very, very young, they understand way more than we think. Of course, you don't talk fast like I'm doing now to a baby. You have to slow down your pace. You have to be precise. And baby are not seeking entertainment. They're seeking love, security, understanding, and acknowledgement, whatever it is. You have to remind them that you're there for them. There's like, I will make you trust that I'm loyal to you, because the sense of loyalty will be learned. And you know what you learn within the parameter of loyalty, organization, honesty, nonverbal cue, because they don't really understand language, they more understand your body, the way it moves, the way it feels, the way the parents communicate to each other. So within the nonverbal cue, there's lots of honesty. And that's why kids around 4 or 5, they're nonverbal expert. They know exactly how to thrive within the parents, because in neurology, there's this kind of a big trend of survival. It's more about thriving and development. It's more about the nest, an exterogestation nest for the baby to grow within love. And where you have love, you have capacitation of language, capacitation of organization, capacitation of sleeping better, feeling better, and be embodied into your self-esteem and explorative status. So if a baby is curious and we encourage and cheer, not extremely, but being praise, a positive praise of the yes and no. And if you say yes, you say why slowly, you say yes. And if you say no, because parents are like, don't do that, don't do that, don't touch this. You have to explain each time. If you touch this, this will hurt. This will hurt because it's electricity, it's a knife. So then there's kind of this slowly process of, we need to be extremely patient, because it's a long process of learning reality. And as you know, I'm 45 years old and I still explore reality. So we're far from that.
It's interesting what you were talking about love and the learning and everything. Even I was listening yesterday to a series about gene and all the stuff. They were talking about the chromosome and the telomere, and they felt a reaction with people doing an exercise like just hands over the thymus gland and the heart, joined together, like a bit like Buddhism and stuff like that. And just doing that consciously while breathing, the energy is there. They see a change in those levels of the telomere that were starting to get better. And I don't want to say something wrong, but there was some inflammatory marker that were changing at the same time, and it was lasting in the system for several hours. So that's really interesting. And all this energy, with there's a nervous system related to the heart, to the brain. So a lot of our integration come from that system, from the heart. So everything about compassion, now the neurology and all those stuff starts to link it to the processes of learning to the brain. And everything is better when you learn with fun, play, love, and all the stuff. So it's even start to slow down all the aging mechanism in the body. That's pretty interesting. We'll come with some stuff later on with that. But
in terms of stem cells, they do stem cells sometime out of bone marrow or umbilical cord. The umbilical cord doesn't have the same, sadly, bad news, the same toxicity level that 50 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It was relatively clean. Now there's a lot. So we're not have the same environmental status for baby, but we're not doing an anti-natalism ideology and say life doesn't worth it. I don't believe in that. I believe in the positive
Yeah.
of human adaptation. Stem cell has lots of new technology that goes even intranasal to brain regeneration.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But if you look at baby, they will send stem cells to organ and repair the mom. You see that in lupus or multiple sclerosis, where it actually goes completely gone while they're pregnant. And when the pregnancy stops, it's slowly coming back. So it's very intriguing how life could protect the baby. The baby will always be first. So in terms of the embryonic environment, is of course you have a baby girl, because of the estrogen, you have better vitamin D retention. But if it's not, it's a boy, better take vitamin D. And going to nature, going in light, it's always important that link to nature. I know you will add comments on it, but go as a pregnant woman outside, 2 hours, 1 hour outside, walking, moving, forest, living in nature, especially us, like in Toronto. You have to, cannot be in an urban setting. Has some kind of a soothing environment, kind of a calmness, serenity. And within that nature walk, the mom could talk to the baby, and maybe the baby could talk back. It happens that I think once it was like, this is anecdotal, but it's like the baby goes like, oh, you should go at the hospital. I don't feel that great. And then it goes like, oh, we find that it's like, okay, we need to proceed this situation, and I'm glad you came on your own instinct. So it's very explorative. Of course, we go into the somatic landscape that could be non-scientific, but birth and the origin of birth, there's still a lot of mystery. And I think if you're, a bit naive,
Oh yeah.
I think it's magical to have a baby. So I don't know, processes in a very rational way, because you don't really meet someone with rational. You don't look at stat when you flirt with someone. You don't look at the algorithm of your compatibility. There's this kind of a instinctual encounter, and sometimes there's a natural mechanism that looks for production and reproduction, and that's all normal. So
The 13 cranial nerve, they call it the nerve of reproduction. We smell the pheromones. That's pretty interesting. Go right to the brain. They said that women are more connected to the heart than the men, and in 3 seconds they know if they feel right about somebody or not. But what's going on with time? Some women don't trust herself. Maybe it was because of marriage, organized marriage and stuff like that. So finally 5 years with the person she don't love, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And finally said, I should have listened to myself in the beginning. I knew it. But officially they say 180 seconds, like 3 minutes, a woman should know if she can marry you and stay with you the rest of her life.
Yeah. Complex compatibility. Exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So second semester, what's important is period or time, same time, let's say 7:30 in your bed, laying down. The baby's here, you put your hand at the opposite side, both mom and dad, and the baby goes to their end. So this kind of a chronobiological circadian appointment at the same time, because that way it creates some kind of an external anticipation of language. It's almost like, oh, I'm gonna need those sensations. Who is that? Who that can be? Why I'm close to that person? Why I'm inside and they're outside? We don't know, It's a very enigmatic world, but it creates a bound, it creates a preparedness. And I would say it's almost like a ritual. We're bound, routine of ritual. We brush your teeth. We say, okay, I'll go back to work, I'll come back. So there's this kind of a ritual rhythm.
There's a lag here.
What?
Yeah, there was a lag. Sorry, you were talking about the ritual.
Yeah.
And
it's ritual of appointment with the baby.
Okay, thanks.
Time on the second and third semester, as often as you can, because that creates an interactive play, and it creates a bounding that's not technically physical yet in that concrete I'm touching your skin with my hand, but that kind of anticipatory attachment, and that's Very important. So testosterone has a lot of influence on lateralization. So I think it's important that the pregnant lady does exercise, because that will create a corpus callosum advantage and beneficial in terms of left-right coordination. There's a lateralization that's important in the process. Some factors are actually genetics, but if you train, you're active, that would sure help.
So sorry, the testosterone helps about the lateralization of the baby, or it's
Baby brain lateralization.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Thanks.
It would be interesting because you're being left hand. That means something occurred that.
Yeah. And the lateralization will change the immune system as well. In the end, it's really interesting how we're binded to our hormones.
So if mom cry, the baby might cry or might, like what's going on. If she's happy and laughing, she will laugh. If she jump, he will jump. So it's kind of a playing environment. It's interactive. And I think you have to create that openness of play, even if it's in your belly. There's this kind of conceptual sense of play, because baby will not work hard. They will play hard, and children play hard all their life, naturally, instinctively, relentlessly. And you have to acknowledge play forever. And if you're an adult that forget to play, well, you have to relearn again. And that's it. That's part of nature. So we know you're going to be after that. There's such a bigger guy. There's not that much difference when you're that young in the third semester between guys and girls, but the breast milk for guys and girls is different. And country that are in war have more boys than girls.
Country?
At the same time, not to be an alternative parent and to not accept the gender, but you have to be very careful is, I only want a boy, or I only want a girl, or if I have a girl, I will dress and tell him he's a boy. Those kind of, you have to accept whatever gender that comes, because it creates confusion in the baby. So I'm not a big fan of doing too much echo. It's kind of a stress. I prefer parents that wait just the baby birth to come and figure it out which gender it is and do a neutral room if they want to. And if they feel that it's maybe too much financial struggle and they prefer, at least just do it once. Of course, for that, you have to go with a doula, with a home birth. So us, holistic neurodevelopmental model, we're really based on having a lactation coach, having a doula home that helps you, maybe the medical system in terms of protection, but the less as possible, and that's a personal choice for a home birth, because the home birth will provide the microbiome and the epidiome, the microbiome epigenetic link of the incubation, where you bring your baby and where it's grown. And I think it's important to have plants home, to have animal if you like them, because the animal will interact with the baby in the fetal stage and the second and the third semester. So there will be a development, and animals are not that dumb. They know there's something going on. They could feel even there's a life there, They won't be surprised to see dogs sleeping on the belly, and there's this kind of innate intelligence regarding animal. And what's very interesting about home birth is you own the placenta. The placenta, if you steal it at the hospital, it's a $75,000 fine, because the placenta is owned by the government. But if you do it home, it belongs to you. And remember, the placenta, lots of alternative practitioners, they convert it in pills, helps the mom, if you're hoping to go that far. But at least the advantage of home is you don't clamp the umbilical cord too fast, too quick, because it's all a question of speed. So you can take your time, and the baby and the life know when it's the right time, and everyone is a bit different.
Can I stop you for a second?
So what?
Can I stop you for a second? It's pretty interesting what you were telling about the property of the government about the placenta.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Reminds me a bit a Blade movie when the vampires well implicated in the blood the blood
We
commerce.
won't go into conspiracy fact, but
No, just interesting.
a placenta worth a lot of money for sure. That's for sure. But it's for
And
the people that listen to make their own research and.
but do you have an idea what's the purpose for them to keep that?
I would say it's toward regenerative medicine.
Yeah, it's stem cells and stuff like that. Yeah.
I like GDF8, GDF11. There's kind of it's pretty complex, but it's kind of a immunoregenerative drugs that kind of coexist now and extrapolating. So I think it's the future of medicine. So for now, they use placenta as the main source, but still place for exploration.
Okay. Thank you.
And if let's say something happened and there's a worriness and you end up in the hospital and you have a cesarean birth and blah blah blah, they're pretty common. It's a disadvantage in terms of the microbiome, but it's not an end for all. It's like, oh no, the immune system of your baby would be awful. No, but you can create a thalasso. You hire an osteopath that does a thalasso birth ritual in water to see if there's relative somatic trauma within the movement of birth. So you can technically recreate birth in terms of a central nervous system, interpretative imagery, and physical sense. And what you do is you create lots of baby pressure toward the skin, because the skin, that's where you're going to add a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
Skin will embody the fascia, which will embody the envelope of the body. And as more you touch, more they know their limits, not their conceptual, physical, artistic, but their physical body. And that's why it's important, especially if you have a cesarean birth, even though all baby needs touch, and it's essential. If you don't touch a baby or a baby is alone, he's going to die. So essential need of touch, but even more, all the fingers, all the nails, all the arms, the armpits, everywhere from the belly button to the peripheral limb. And that's where I want you to have information.
It's interesting. I'm finishing writing down the sentence, personal limits. Actually, well, we know that the skin, the ectoderm, construct the nervous system, brainstem, the brain, everything come from the skin of the outer fetus. So everything, our brain is connected to the skin. I love to work a lot with skin stimulation, in therapy and neurotherapy. There's a reason you're touching the brain, basically. And remember when you did my level 1, I don't want to interfere with people, but some of my students are English as well. The first thing I'm going to fix, even before postural G, eyes, inner ear, plantar soul, is the skin right away. If I got a bioelectrical problem, it's been there's something over the skin that create a problem to the brain stem. So the skin is the brain. So fix the skin before even fixing the eyes or everything that's part after the brain. So that's interesting. That's my new opinion about it. I realize why it's so important to fix those bioelectrical trouble. And as well as scars with emotion in it are so powerful. So if I come back to the skin, let's go with the motor brain from the sensory. The more you're touched, the more you get a conception of the physical reality we're in it. And the sense of touch is the only one that if you lost it, you're going crazy. People suicide themselves. They let themselves die. So some people don't get touched. They only touch themselves. But the people, that's a fact. I'm telling you, people that lost that ability, there's a name for it, I forget it, they go crazy and they let themselves die since they lost the sense of reality, because everything is constructed in the brain. What you're seeing is constructed in the brain. What you're hearing is constructed in the brain. But the touch, imagine you're on your chair at the moment, you don't feel the weight of your body over the chair. feel like being in space. You don't feel the chair. Imagine you don't feel your elbow on the on the chair. You don't feel nothing. Imagine your brain after a while go completely crazy. So that's really interesting. So if your brain can't interact with the physical reality like that, is no use anymore. Since if the skin, outer skin, the epiderm, is directly the brain stem and the nervous system and the brain, how can you think if you don't feel how everything go wrong? So you can lose your hearing, your sight, you can lose everything, but the touch is so important. Some, I don't want to judge anyone, but if we educate them to understand how much it's important, imagine if you don't touch your baby, you don't learn his limits. You might have trouble in sports, might have trouble in interaction with people, whatever. But just the fact of touching him, you're helping him construct his brain. So that's, what can I say more?
And that, I think, to me, it's the most important job in the world that's really misperceived today, is a mom home that built a brain. Yes, she doesn't have a career. No, she's not a CEO.
Exactly.
She's doing the most important work ever been done at home. And if the man goes work, or both can work from home with virtual online, great for them. Building a brain, it's what's the most important ever. So on an holistic level, that's an advice. It's not a truth. You do whatever you want with it. We advise a no drug environment birth, because drugs hinder oxytocin, you hinder pain, you hinder collectivity between two persons. So what I mean by that is, strangely as it is, sounds a bit sadomasochistic, more pain, more love. You know, of course, if it's like pain that lasts 3 days, that's too much. But, you know, a relatively endurable period of baby birth. Remember that we did a baby technically, that we had anticipation of appointment, anticipation of play and language, anticipation and connection to nature. The mom meditates the baby. The mom eat good, organic, colored fiber, prebiotic, methylfolate, vitamin D, zinc. She's all covered. She's been followed for with an osteopath and a neurologist for coordination, which is your strength. For the hips, and the hips that hold lots of sexual emotion, expression of emotion, very symbolic, both on men and women. So a drug-free will help baby connection, because if you follow the neurodevelopmental model, that connection will just enhance with time, and you will fall in love the first time you hold your baby. You know, the first time I hold a baby in my life, it was the first time I hold a baby in my life.
And your baby, you mean, yeah.
It should be that, you know, you're 5 years old, you're a baby, you already play with baby, you already explore baby, you already had play as a nurse of a baby. My baby has everything of a baby. He has baby, he can feed the baby, she showed that she breastfed the baby. She has a walking support baby that she hook her baby on her belly and then she walks with it. So you create that kind of anticipation, you know. That's important as an adult, because you won't be as intimidated by the fragility of their life. And yes, a baby that's just born is very fragile, but once they're 18 months, I'm not saying they're unbreakable, but they're tough. They can handle some kind of falling out and stuff, and it's kind of the learning process. They need to find, they need to explore, and they need to be old. You need to hold the baby for almost 18 months.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's what I heard. Because anyway, it's not in fully grown neurologically, because the brain will I forget the brain was weighed like 2 tons or something like it, if it was already pre-wired when it's going out, when the woman delivered. The brain continues growing outside of the body. That's interesting. I've been translating the name. I was forgetting in English. It's hypoesthesia, actually, the term for the loss of the sense.
So it's replica the tribal in a contemporary, holding a baby close for 18 months. You see that in tribal, and there's a lot of advantage because with proximity, as you know, it helps vagal tone maturity, because the vagal tone on a baby and a young kid is still immature. So within vagal, at the metaphysical sense of the vagal nerve, there's this perception of safety and social connection and social bonding and emotional intelligence and interpretative intelligence of the empathy of others. And those are just like layers to layers of learning, you know, and those create very smart, connected, embodied, self-esteem, present. And you need to be present as a parent to show that, but at least with all those proximity, they learn self-regulation. They learn themselves for the heart to calming down themselves. And what you do as a parent, even if you may be a bit more nervous parents, or maybe more anxious parents, or maybe you know, it's like baby you love, but it's a bit obscure for you, you just calm and quietness. Quietness as holding a child or a baby will ground them. And that's what they're looking at. So what I mean by that, to learn and bring home, when your baby or kids at the worst, you have to be at your best. Your best. So there's always that kind of a pendulum, you know, both at the nervous system and communication. Because if they lose their temper, and the thing is, any baby or kids, even if there's nothing that happened, the nervous system will get arousal and anxiety anyway. It's kind of a part of the cortisol loop, so you cannot get out of it. You know, if you have a baby that never makes sounds or under-expresses, you better get, you know, a neurological observation to it, because more baby takes place, more he has some kind of an ego development. And, you know, I'm not saying that you need to be all about the ego. You have to transcend the narcissistic. But at the same time, it's like with proximity, you learn the sense of safety, which will make you feel a sense of trust forever. And once the parents put the baby on the belly, always on the belly as much as you can. If the baby can handle 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes. Can handle 15 minutes, can handle 15 minutes, can handle 2 hours, go for 2 hours. It doesn't matter. You need that nest. You need that watch, wait, wonder nest. It's not like you have to give all the clues and the tools and do everything for themselves. They have to kind of be somewhat independent and solution their own, within their own insight. And when you see success, then you praise and you say why you did success. And, you know, that kind of interrelationship, that's very intriguing, and it's open to curiosity, watch, amazement. And it's not about being amazed about everything they do, but it's a good sign of love. It's a good sign of security. It's a good sign of belongment. And, you know, like us, you know, we have a townhouse. In every floor, there's a part that belongs to the baby.
Nice.
She has a little, her house, her home kitchen, her home playroom, her home room, even though she sleeps with us. So she see and she perceives that it's not like an adult world where everything is not on her reach. She has stuff that at her height level, she has stuff to play that are not electronic toys, but toys that looks and mimic nature. You know, if you have a piece of wood that's round, they'll go on it and they will play with their vestibular system. They will put it on the couch and they're gonna climb. They might jump on the couch. You don't stop them because they stimulate the vestibular system. They might knock on stuff to stimulate the vestibular system. You don't stop them too. You get maybe toys that doesn't make sound. So you have to create an environment where they can jump, they can climb, they can walk. And that's why nature is good, because they allow all that energy to be expressed. It's hard to be, you know, you live in a 2.5 and you're chill, you know, it's full of furniture. it's better to go minimal, because once the environment is minimal with brighter, softer color, there's this kind of a relaxation of the limbic system. Especially if you have a children that's more sensitive, then you have to create an environment and to adapt. You know, adaptation has to be on both ways. The baby has to adapt to parents, and parents has to adapt to the kids. And everyone has some kind of his own border, you know, is those, you know, I'm not gonna go as far as doing this. That's too much. And that's fine. You don't want to do stuff for kids that you don't like or dislike. It's more of an exploratory of where's my clear boundaries is, especially as a mother, you know. Sometimes it's like, okay, I breastfed, because breastfed, you swallow, you work the vagal nerve, you work all those reflexes. You're going to add information on that. Immune function, DNA, mitochondria, there's all those benefits because formula is pretty weak in nourishment, and the body temperature will say the breast will come at the rhythm of the baby when he's hungry and not. There's this synchronicity at the biological level that's completely amazing. And at the same time, there's help in terms of the immune function. So holistically speaking, we say to breastfeed for the baby for 5 years. If you don't want to do that, it's okay. If after 3 years, you do only once a day for an immune or soothing function before sleep or when they're sick or whatever, that's fine too. Everyone has a choice. And we advise co-sleeping, because co-sleeping is that security. There's this sense of heart-to-heart communication, heart-to-heart sensibility. The baby smell her mom or smell someone. Doesn't have to be the mom all the time. Can be the dad, can be the grandparents. As long as there's someone, even a dog, you know, could do. It's just, there's this sense of safety because they're kind of innate intelligence, but it's very autonomic. So if you project a sense of safety, it has a lot of advantage later on in terms of their own self-esteem. If you don't want to, you don't want to. But the thing is, let's say you have cesarean birth, they sleep alone, the mom eat whatever, they don't do any nature connection, they don't have toys that replica nature. It's kind of, you almost kind of hurt the neurodevelopmental model. And I don't want to diagnostic anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a team worker of a family coach to help them help the neurodevelopmental family. But make sure that if you have a baby that's 4 years old, and I think that's the only goal, if you have a baby at 4 years old that can go trust a friendly stranger, shake hands, say, my name is Mika, I'm 4 years old, I live in Toronto, how are you, what's your name? And then it's done shy, confident. I'm not saying your life is done, because life is unpredictable, but you had create the perfect, and I'm not saying perfect with a big, you know, there's no way to do that. But if you create a social setting to the outside world of the family that they're prepared to face contemporary stressor, because nowadays, I don't know if you know, but especially now, life is very stressful. And the only thing you do is like, I will do a neurodevelopmental model for my children to have the ultimate intelligence he can. And it's not me to decide the amount of intelligence is inherent. It's already pre-written, but at least be embodied in his body to develop as the person as he wants. And you don't framework a career and a life direction or rigidity. It's more of a developmental steps of thriving and development in a neurodevelopmental model of the family, where they're willing to explore the world. And it starts with lots of closeness, lots of coaching, if you want co-bedding and self-eating too. Eating is part of the game. They have to learn very young to eat food on themselves. Because if you spoon-fed a baby, It's a passive and sensory information. If they do it themselves, they grab the food, they touch the texture of the food, the color, the sense, the smell, they put in their mouth, they learn how to chew, they learn how to swallow. Of course, you create kind of a meat, because you need to chew, you need to build your jaw very young. Long kind of meat are very safe because they hold in their hand, and often they don't even chew, they just like swallow some kind of taste and stuff. They're kind of, it's more of a play curiosity. But if you do that, intrinsically speaking, if they learn to transition food from, let's say, yams to steak to eggs, they learn to transition later on in life. They learn to transition from that situation to another. You know, someone that's picky, very picky, is like, or to, let's say an adult, okay, to meet me, you have to meet me at 6 p.m. In my home. I better have money in my pocket or I won't come. Those are rigid people because they didn't learn transition very young. Make sense? Right? Sure, you know people like that.
Yeah, sure.
So the 1 year challenge is the hardest challenge of life. The first year of the baby is the hardest in terms of couple challenges. Because the mother will become a mom forever, and she has herself, and she has her corporate self, and she has her as a woman, a wife. So there's this: who am I? Where's the mother? Where's my identity? So all those questions, and they're okay, and it's normal. And I think that's where if there's too much confusion, then you need some kind of a psychological, psychodynamic, or psychoanalytic help. But it's important to live those transitions fully and to embrace it and to have, hopefully, a family community that allow the woman to rest as much as he needs. Some will go back to function right away. Some will sleep for a year. Some will, it's a very, you have to embrace whatever the consequences and the challenge. And I think that if the family hold in love at the nonverbal cue level as much as they can, and no one is perfect, and if the parents are fighting, well, it's okay to fight. You say to the baby, yes, we hard, yes, we fight. It's not you, it's not about you, it's about us. So you create that kind of a separation. And maturity is like, yes, we fight about that, but that's now fixed and we're okay. Right? I love mom, so you show the love. You know, you don't lie. You be honest. You need that kind of integrity. Yes, we fight. Yes, that kind of misbehaved. That's not right. It's okay. I'm not perfect. I might do better next time. We'll see. You're my first baby, so, you know, I'm learning. We all learning together.
I'm your first dad, so you're learning too. I want to add something before you go too far, and then we go aside of the subject. You were talking about confidence, babies going on the ground, and the place in the home for the babies and stuff. That's pretty interesting and pretty powerful as well, because we're talking about the sensory information coming from the skin and the receptor when the baby is on the ground. That's secure because you can't fall. You're already on the ground, right? So when you're moving, you're creating stimulus with the knee, the elbow, the feet, and everything. You're touching the ground. You're physically creating impacts on it. We won't get into piezoelectricity and stuff like that, but just the fact of moving, feeling, and interacting in safety with the ground is magnificent for the brain and the confidence of the baby moving. They did some research, pretty interesting research about babies on a table. They were watching it in the first day, and it was going to the border like it's going to fall, don't have the perception of distance. But in something like 2 weeks only, the baby was going to the border and was not going further because he's already getting the fact that I feel there's some emptiness, empty space in front of me, and I won't go there because it's not safe. But if you're always, watch out, looking at your baby because you're frightening yourself, you won't help him neither on that part. So that's interesting. And it's not normal for some babies, you put them on the ground and they cry. Is it because they're too attached to their parents, or because it's supposed to be fun to be on the ground, or there's a reflex, a primitive reflex not integrated properly. It happens often. So there's a sensory motor issue. Sensory is not good. They haven't spent too much time there, or there's a lack of something coming from the plantar sole, hands, whatever, palmar, plantar reflex, and every reflex they're gonna come after, while the crawl and the forelimbs and everything. If it's not properly integrated, you're gonna see babies crying on the ground or not moving. They're gonna seek for their parents. Remove them. Remove me from the ground. I'm afraid of the ground. It's not supposed to be normal. So those people, after we're gonna want them to walk and stand and run and do regular activities like the other one, but they don't even got the confidence to stay on the ground. So that's interesting. If you got a baby that has this condition, you got to maybe look for a specialist about it, because it can create a lot of problem later on, even with connection with people and everything, because you don't have confidence in your own body while you're not moving or you're just on the ground. Imagine, okay, let's do we're gonna climb this weekend with stranger in the in the mountain. No. I don't love stranger. I don't want to be outside. I don't want. He's gonna be frightened from a lot of stuff.
So yes, you have to be careful of fear projection. I think that life is so smart, and the societal and community level, they will learn fear. Sadly, maybe from you, but eventually by external stressor, and life will pretty easily. Anyhow, when your teeth, grow, there's so much pain that pain is a learning curve, and the parents, they feel empowerless toward the pain that's induced. It's a very saddening moment, but at the same time, it's like it shows the harshness of life and the harshness reality of life, and it's a learning curve both for the babies and the parents, and you kind of have to accept as much as can that process, which could be pretty sad for a few parents. But for the baby that sleep on the floor and cry, what you see is you acknowledge emotion. So first, you grab the baby. You grab the baby by the side. You flip it aside. You bring it close to your heart. You look right brain hemisphere. You move. The vestibular system relax. You will slowly, naturally, instinctively change the higher pitch. Hello, baby. You'll have a softer kind of voice. Naturally, you'll bring closeness, which induce neurotransmitter connection. And then you acknowledge an emotion. I see that you were on the floor and you were sad. It's okay to be sad. Stay here, relax, you soothe, and then you try again later. It's all about you acknowledge the emotion, and you don't see any bad emotion as a pathological diagnostic. You have to embrace life the way it is. Of course, if you do neurodevelopmental reflex, like you say, that's highly beneficial. But at the same time, acknowledge emotion, give it a name, give it a mindset, will be a very great way to learn about emotion and emotional intelligence. Especially emotion weren't really explained when I was young in my generation, sadly. I had to explore myself. Okay, this is sadness, this is that, this is that. But if you start very young, you will understand, especially when you have siblings, you have brother and sister, you start very, very young, that either the brother or the sister take care of the baby. So that way it bounds to connection, it bounds even to more empathy. And then I say, I see that the baby now, my sister, is sad. I see that she's mad, she's angry now. Why are you angry? So there's this kind of a self-explorative play of emotional acknowledgement. And that's why I like to have, maybe we're too much, but we're holistic parents. We have toys and dolls that has no emotion, because if you have a baby that always smiles, like,
that's weird.
That always smile. No, you imagine the emotion in the dolls, to span your creativity. And maybe that looks like a useless detail, but it's very intriguing in terms of the creativity. And don't be afraid of the imagination at earlier age. Embrace it, nourish it, have fun with it. And if you're a non-creative person, maybe explore those dimensions, because there's so much in the right brain hemisphere till 7 that you might work with story, narrative, storytelling at bedtime, etc., etc. It helps. You know, now my baby, she's almost 3. She take a book. She doesn't know how to read, obviously, and then she read because she learned it by heart, and she knows all the word. And it's not the thing, but she process or interpretative narrative on her own. Instead of when she wake up, because they're really connected to nature, they wake up at the sun right away. So she wake up first, and then she read and she does her storytelling. You know, she don't talk to us like, "Hey, are you gonna wake up?" You know, she's doing a little thing already. So you see this kind of if you have a neuro-bio-social model of development, they inherently a bit like Montessori and Waldorf, resiliency, adaptation, maturity. So we do everything with the baby. If we go on a trip, they come with us. We travel, they travel with us. We do kitchen, she's in the kitchen. So there's kind of an interplay dynamic, because someone that loves his parents will see it as a team. Is like, I feel like I want to be there. I feel I want to be with them, belonging, participating, learning. And at that age, everything is play. So it's always fun. It's always fun, because they learn with mirror neurons. They learn with this embodiment of representational play. I will try at my best to be a role model as a parent and lover, because I wish that the stability of a family over loyalty and dignity and sincerity will be what you will live later. And you will learn from us, both the good and the bad part, because no one is perfect, and better. Children has to be better than parents. It's not a competition. It's an acknowledgement. You know, me,
that's right.
Yeah, I look at my baby and I see her self-regulation system, and I'm freaking out. I'm saying, like, man, even though mom and dad come with somewhat dysfunctional family, we have a baby that has very decent self-regulation. That's better than myself. How amazing is that? It's not because you come from fucked up parents that were like drug addict and alcoholic, and they were fighting all the time, and they live like roommate, or they never touch, or they never kiss, or never show love. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can start from scratch, do a neurodevelopmental model, and do the best you can, and that would be enough. You don't need to be perfect.
That's a long journey sometimes, but it's normal. It's not a rush. It's not a competition, to be honored. And I love that vision. The more I'm studying in neuroscience and integrative medicine, I realize the brain got the program to make sense about the information we receive through our sense. So, don't want to go too far in that, but that's really the program that you're putting in your baby's brain at the moment for the next 5 years, that it's an optimal state to receive information. So we are creating a software, and after that software is going to translate the event, the interpretation that we get from this reality. So so after that, if the software is better, it's going to be easier to survive in that reality. We start our life, you and me, with a software that was a kind of buggy, we got to say, but we are working hard with upgrade. Okay, that system bring me conflict. If I'm keeping to use that software, I know it's bugging. I know that it's not bringing me any goods. I got to change that software for another one. So we're starting to switch some of our old software and put better in place, and that need work, that need conscious that something is not working, and that's that's not permanent, but you tell it if at 4 years old your child got difficulty to interact with people, say their name, give their hands, having confidence in other people. Yeah, that's an issue, because in the first 5 years, that's where you construct your software. But it's not definitive. You can change after, you can become better, but you need to do your upgrades. It's always the other people, the problem and the stuff, and I'm like that, and I can change, I'm old now. Well, okay, stay that way. You're gonna have problems. I don't want to talk into COVID, but that lockdown is pretty interesting at the moment, because people need to be in front of sometimes their mate, their babies, got no job at the moment some people use their work to define themselves, and now you don't have work, dude. You get to work on yourself, work on your couple, work with your child, and that's pretty interesting. Might have a lot of divorce, or a lot of couple that's gonna strengthen them together and go somewhere else. And it's gonna be a massive change all around, I think, with that thing. People gotta have to work on that software.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is I can't wait that children play with each other, because play develop, IQ.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you develop and interact at, you're supposed to technically, if you're 3 years old, to see kids that are 5, 6 year old, 5, 7, 7, 8, teenager, and all those interactive play. Because of the age gap and age difference, one comes a mentor, one they learn, one they can influence. It's very intriguing and very good developmental level for IQ. And the sense of humor is often very natural in baby, and you have to learn to laugh if you never do it. And it's all about serious all the time. Me, I had to learn to kind of rediscover play. I had to rediscover humor. And what's funny is, my baby is a play expert and is a humor expert. You might find humor that is pretty smart. I'm like, where that humor comes from? And it doesn't come from the mom or the dad. The mom is fun, but it's a very out of parents type of humor, and that's very, very cool.
She's highly creative, I guess. Mia is like that, but I was like that too. I was super creative. I was super creative, maybe for my survive at the time, because I was not the one. We were poor. I was half handicapped, and so I felt a lot of rejection in my life. So maybe that was bring me. I had to change the software real quick to survive and get love and receive that. My parents were not tight. Well. My mom was not there, and my father left. I was 2.5, so I got to find love somewhere, like every human being. Huh? So that's interesting. I was talking about how that software is hard to change. There's a reason why, because that software permit us to decode our perception of reality. But how can you see that you got a problem with your perception of reality? If you want to change a software, that is the one that brings you the information from the outside. So you keep in that way of decoding that is bad, but you can't see other way, because you're still looking at the world with that own system, that own software.
Yeah, true. But that's why the bird has some kind of developmental assets. Mm-hmm. And being a baby and a toddler and then a tween, then a teenager with lots of conceptuality go through, lots of question, lots of process, and eventually the wisdom hit around 40, 45. Of course, some are they have more much younger, but at the same time, it's like life will bring you to those existential step or existential crisis or existential development, no matter what, with time.
That's interesting. If I can make a comparison with the technology, example, you have a 4K television at home, I guess. Imagine in the first time you had nothing that was not even HD, okay? And it's like, okay, there's a new movie, it's a 4K movie, okay? But if I look at it with my software, it won't become a 4K, because the technology is like that. but the human brain is so amazing. We can adapt to everything, but we get to see there's a possibility we can be better than what we are at the moment. We get to change our habits, and the software will update itself automatically. But you got to work on that direction. And what you're doing with your child is amazing, because you let her the chance to become what she wants to become, actually, because you're just acting like
an agent.
Yeah, exactly, an agent. Oh, I should say you let her doing its own trial and everything, but okay, that's a bad trial. I can tell you, you're gonna burn yourself. Okay, don't do that, and you explain it.
That's why, and that's the last step of the lecture, why we advise homeschooling.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a teacher, it doesn't matter. Even if you know nothing about math and French, doesn't matter. The home itself is the most complex thing.
Yeah.
An individual by itself with authenticity and style, it's an endless exploration of, if I try to study the Nicolas Desjardins world, it's a very complex, there's a lot of simplicity, but there's a lot of and there's a lot of trigger, and there's lots of interactive, and you keep changing as the day goes by. So imagine if you're a kid, you have to process all this. Homeschooling has lots of advantage in terms of conflict resolution. So there will be love, and there will be conflict, and there are natural conflict, and more conflict and more love there is, more development to assess for the rest of your life. And I think to have a form of respect and etiquette to the external world as a very young teenager, that would be very impressive, and that will create a tone of respect. And people, when they see someone that has presence and embody and know and feel and in integrity, they're not going to intimidate that person. They're just going to go like, wow, this person has charisma. This person has this power over me. It has a convincing embodiment. I'm really surprised by the presence and aura and exteroception of that person. And I'm not saying that all the kids from now on will hone this, but if you look and feel and explore neurodevelopmental advantage, it will pay out very well, because you have someone that is connectively, neurologically connect to his body. And, I came from a life that I forget about everything. The first memory I have, I was like almost 15. So everything's gloomy, It's like between birth and 15 years old, I only remember 7-8 seconds. And after I went 10 years, party, bodybuilding, craziness and stuff. And now I go back on earth and I just study all the time, and I bring back and down a conceptual neurodevelopmental model. It shows how the body can go from chaos and mystery and dissociation to somewhat of a relatively fine, decent parent.
Exactly.
I'm 45 and I had a baby at 20. Would that be terrible? I would not like to be at that at 20. I was lucky my time frame, and nowadays people have kids much older. And there's disadvantage and there's advantage. The disadvantage is it could lead easier to wisdom. The disadvantage is often younger parents could lead a certain essential space for them.
I get it, yeah.
To be too mature and too much wisdom, it has an overly protective umbrella. Now that we're in complete isolation, it's not a time to create that kind of a, life is it's not a jail. Sleeping in a crib looks like a jail. It doesn't come out. The baby just wants to go out of it. If the baby sleep close to her mom and smell the sense of the milk and the skin, baby's not going to run away sleeping alone. unless there's like cortisol stress and it's like, what's going on there? I need my kind of, you know, you always have, as parent, to have a reflective thought of how my baby interact with me, how I interact with my baby, how my baby interact with object. Does he take a pen and he eats it, which would be okay. If he take a book and he eats the book and he put this book and he grip the page, that's okay too. You cannot take a book from a baby. Imagine if a baby, each time you touch a book, you take it out. What's going to happen later? He's going to look at book and say, oh,
Yeah, you're right. That's interesting.
I don't want to read. I don't want to read anymore. You know? So, and a bit like screening, where technically screen are very bad for baby. You don't put the baby on the iPhone, especially at 3 years old. There's a very withdrawal addiction. But us, what we do is we put a movie, a baby movie, after she was maybe like 2.5, you know, like 24 months, 30 months, we do one movie a week. And they're very soft movie, you know, like a very creative, only color drawing, no reality per se. And that's for us, that's fine too, because you have to be very smart with computer, because on one sense is we live in a complete virtual world and everyone's social media connected, but you have to make sure that the kids or the teenager or the young adult use it wisely. And my best advice to close this seminar lecture, they get a cell phone when they can work and buy it themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So you want an iPhone, you want to play with your iPhone, you're gonna work and you're gonna get your phone. And that's it. So that's it. Enough maturity for them to understand money, responsibility. Is like you give everything to a kids. You know, now a kids, me, I'm in Toronto. Some kids in Toronto, they have already a house, their school paid, and money in their bank account. What are the challenges?
Nice. At what year?
No, they're not
what
even
age?
it's there. You know, the Jewish and the Chinese, I'm not going to get into, you know, even white.
Cultural, yeah.
For me, no. You want your stuff, you work for it. You give everything you want to a baby that's near 3 years old, because he needs their neurodevelopment to develop, to connect his touch, his sense of texture, his sense of exploration, his sense of play. It's not about life entertainment. It's more about, you know, our baby goes to dance course and gymnastics, you know, just twice a week, about 40 minutes, 30 minutes, very short time. You know, so that explore play, that explore movement, that explore having a teacher, that explore seeing 10, 12 kids with all different colorful behavior, because at that age they're highly unpredictable, and unpredictable lead to parental anxiety. So you have to kind of dwell in that veil of uncertainty, and sometimes fear is like, oh, my baby's running, he's 14 months, he's going to cross the street, or he's going to jump on this. There's this kind of unpredictableness, which has beauty and challenge. And that's where I think the most challenge is how to be a mature parent and develop his patience. It's very, very tough. And that would be probably the most hard challenge of life. And I'm still working on it, and I will work on it forever.
That's the part. I'm gonna leave it again in 10 weeks now. The 6th July, new baby in the home, another girl, and I'm so proud of my daughter already. She's 9 years old now. I don't spend much time with her, sadly, because she's far away. She's with her home, but she's spending now 5 months a year in Mexico.
Face chat?
Yeah, at least sometime. But in Mexico, that's the connection are super bad. That's really hard. But there's ton of love still, and she's playing outside, going in the beach, she's no technology. Internet is bad. She's learning language now. She's so mature. That's incredible. She's always she's doing now. home teaching since she's 8 years old, because the mother can leave that way in Mexico. So that's something really, really amazing. I'm really proud of her. Yeah, she's more mature than me, actually, emotionally, I think. And that's perfect that way.
The point is that, and the thing is, I think that while, you know, the judicial system had advantage women, I'm not going to go
Yeah.
but now father rights are gaining back very lots of importance because they understood that if a house doesn't have a father, often they don't go in school, often they take drugs, often they're more chaotic, often there's more suicidal tendencies, more tendencies to depression. So now there's a flip that they see, oh, both gender as advantage. And, you know, you will not see as much of kind of this conditional, you know, like the father pay the mom and they never see the kids, those kind of things, those kind of justice, which is are very harmful, are changing a lot now. And we live in a world that the mother at home or the mother that works and is at home will be acknowledged the beneficial sense of building a brain forever in life, and the father role will be more understood than it was, thanks to science and thanks to holistic practitioners.
I think all that dissociation coming with the technology can create dissociation in humanity, but the distance. I know when we have a plan back to move to Switzerland, or companies open there. We got offers, big offers there, and we might go in Switzerland again. So I know I'm gonna keep, sadly, that pattern with my daughter, but we're gonna keep doing FaceTime. And when I'm gonna pay her vacancy to come here, and when I'm coming back to Quebec, I know we're gonna have great time. Not working, we're gonna spend time together. Not in the same room. And yeah, that's I think that's like you tell it, you have no memories before you're 15 years old, almost mid-year. But the memory I got is one at my granddaughter home. I was going there every 2 years. I got some memories, but it was in family moments. So super important time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one important. And
for very busy family is quality time with their children. That's what it's like. Okay, I'm always busy at work, texting, working, running, hustling, making money. But once I'm home, once I'm with my kids, I'm fully there, and I try as much as I can. And I know that to cut all that kind of business processing and say,
yeah, when she's sleeping, you can go back to the rush and stuff like that. I'm getting used with split schedule like that with Europe and here anyway. So there's always a 6-hour split. I know if I open my cell phone at 7 a.m., people from Quebec not gonna bugging me, but I'm gonna have tons of messages coming from France, Switzerland, and stuff. And after at 6 p.m., I won't have news from French people, so I know it's gonna be the people from here who are gonna start. So I got to put my limit. Now our limit is 8 p.m. I stopped working. I'm gonna study some series about physics and stuff like that, and I'm trying to not put any work now anymore in my brain. So we need time for ourselves. There's a new study that's just shown up. I saw it this week. So the hippocampus in the brain, that one that's going to help with the memory, the 3D map of the world as well. Yeah, the hippocampus, sorry. There's a lot of neural connections that are growing if people do 2 hours of silence during a day. It's pretty interesting, actually, because when I want to be calm, usually I put brain waves, whatever, binaural beats, but actually pure silence is better. So
that's
for
why
the brain development.
Spiritual tone is this: in the void of emptiness, of the absence of sound and presence and stimulus, there's you at the core of your pure heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
That's interesting.
I have to go work and
It's
coach.
okay. Thank you,
But
brother.
we
I'm
did
full
it.
of love.
An hour 40, an hour 30. That was awesome, bro. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was a bit fast paced because I had so much data, but I think I recover all the subject even much nicer than in French, and it has a better chronology.
Just before we
Yeah,
get to say bye, we get to say bye to people before, so I can start the registering the recording.
yeah.
Thanks, Guy, for.
But I want to say, listen it. If you loved it, listen it 3 times, because this represent 5 years of work of maybe 15 to 40 hours of study. I don't know how much money. I don't even want to know. I don't know how many books. I don't want to know. It's just an exploration of everything, and I give everything I know. And I think that puts you really at the avant-garde of the neurodevelopmental model. Of course, in a week, it's even better. In 2 weeks, it's even better. In 3 months, it's even better, because that world goes very fast. But if someone loves it, listen 3 times, take note, go research, go study, go explore all those interpersonal neurobiology and prenatal, etc. Knowledge, and have fun. If you have questions, wrote to me or wrote to Nick.
Excellent. Register to our webpage, Institut Neuroperformance, same stuff. We're giving a free ebook now. I don't know what period you are in space, but for now, it's a nervous system testing. That's pretty cool. We are preparing a course about neurodevelopment for the child and about the breastfeeding. And I don't want to say a scoop without asking your consent, my dear Ben, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be part of it. So,
yeah, is to conclude. I'm still adding conclusion. The baby, the first contact is the mom. It's not a clinician. The baby goes up by itself because it's the crate crawl. It's that ritual of crawling. And then the baby chews on her own, on his own, left and right, the anticipation of movement for coordination. You don't take a baby and bring right to the breast. They go on themselves. They go autonomy of. And that's it. It's pretty cool.
Man, that's so.
If they go to the bathroom on their own, you don't scream and dance. You went to the toilet. It's a party.
No.
It's like you're using your function, so pretty intimate. You learn the boundaries.
No.
Oh, this is your organ. This is your. You say it. This is your vagina. It belongs to you. It's your. And if you want to explore it, it's okay, but maybe don't do it with us. Do it alone, and because there's sensory pleasure machine, and you cannot repress, and you have to acknowledgement, and you have to not to baby. Some baby talk is fun. It's funny for humor. You have to talk slowly, precisely, concisely, and to create security. It's like we're gonna go in the car, we're gonna go grocery, we need salad and food, we need vegetable water, and
be precise.
Grocery for 20 minutes and come back. We're gonna drive, we're gonna tie you up to a chair, the chair is for your security. So that way you create a narrative of security of what's going on. Because imagine if you don't know what's going on, and everyone's taking you and bring you wherever you don't know where you're going, that's very bizarre. It's like you need a sense of where we're going now. Can I know where we're going? Unless it's a surprise, because surprises are exciting for kids. That's why we play the hide and seek. We look at a baby and then we hide ourselves and we show, that kind of hide and seek, because it goes from absence to presence, and it's that play of between order and chaos, like the Jordan Peterson. So that's why playing hide and seeks, they learn consistency of presence, and eventually, they're very close to their mom at first, obviously because of the breastfed and the heat, proximity. But then eventually they have to manage the dad, and the dad is not the same nervous system, it's not the same smell, it's not the same beard, the feeling. and they have to adapt to the dad and love the dad too. And that love comes naturally, takes time. It's different with the dad. You know, dad or not like mom or dad. Some dad, they will fall in love right away. So take a layer of interaction, which is, it's fine too. I mean, you know, it's okay. That's life. It's a process. It's a life process of discovering love for men with a baby. And at the same time, when mom is not there and there's a trigger or there's a tantrum, they have to learn to self-regulate with the dad, because that'll be very different. And that'd be a masculine or a different emotional environment. And that's a learning process that, you know, you say, yes, your mom will always be there. Yes, you're with dad now, and it's a different world, but you're okay, you're safe, I'm there with you, we're a team. What can I do for you? What, you know, one time I have to go work, but I'm too excited.
Yeah.
She's in the bath, she take tons of bath soap and she put in her hair. You know, like that. And she got a lot of hair, already long hair. And then me, I'm like, I'm kind of freaking out. Like, what's gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna. So I'm losing my temper. Her, she's in the play mode and stuff. Yeah, I would grab her and I would put her under the water of the, you know.
Yeah, can be tons of soap in the eyes.
Yeah. So, and then because me, I bend her like that while I'm a bit nervous, it looks a bit, you know, it's like, what the hell's going on? I'm not liking it, obviously, you know. And me, I'm like, I calm down, I grind myself, and I ask her, what dad can do? And she goes like, use the cup. She pointed me the cup. So there's a cup of water to wash her hair. And as stupid as it is, me dumb ass that forget about it. Nervous. And she showed me, yeah, you see we're team on, then I wash her hair easy.
Wow.
You know? So, and one time she's in the bath again, and she wants to take out the you know, the thing that it stopped them from sliding. It's like that plastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Bottom of the bath.
With the vacuum.
Yeah. So she wants to take it out. You know, she wants to play with it, whatever.
That's fun.
It's pretty hard to, you know.
Yeah.
Going, and then she's going, and this is going, and then she's kind of losing her temper. And me, I look at her, and I was like, this is observation. I'm calm, but I know she's not calm.
The 3W.
Yeah. So watch and wonder. And then she's pulling, she's losing her temper. When she loses her temper, she decides to press with her foot and pull with her hand.
Oh my God.
And so then she succeeds. And me, I'm like, wow, you got it. You find the solution on your own. I didn't do nothing. Success. I was happy, man.
That's amazing. I want to close with something funny just for the end. I think you just delivered the greatest secret ever about men. Okay, you told something really great. You said don't cheer when somebody go to the toilet the first time. Okay, because it bring like a special event of fun and party. It's not because you're doing you're evacuating a pee and poop, and you're just cleaning up your system, and it's pretty intimate, like you told. It remember me. Guys in party with the fire camp and everything that go out and they're a bit drunk and they remove their clothes and run all around and shout and do like a party like that. Maybe that's the kind of people that have been trained when they were kids to cheer when they're naked and they do their stuff. So don't do that if you don't want your kid to be naked in campfire. So
you know, it's because baby are often very naked. They're learning inhibition and exhibition.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the frontier on the basal ganglia and the frontal cortex, there's this making and the corpus callosum collection. The neurological link, as you know, of decision making, inhibition, exhibition control, and that's a learning process. It took
it's supposed to be clear at 7 years.
It took me 40 years to get that one, but
I do remember. Yeah. We got some funny stuff to say about you, baby.
Okay, man.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Love you. And gonna post that. Okay. Ciao.
Thanks.